Well, it's my birthday today, so I figured that if we're smack dab in the middle of a whole month of terrible movies, then I had to at least, I better get to celebrate my favorite film of all time, Jaws. But thanks to Dustin Ferguson, they're gonna have to be terrible knockoffs. And I did this last year with the rule that I wouldn't use any films from the Syfy Channel, so this time I went the opposite direction, and we're only featuring movies that were originally aired there. I don't know if that's a step up or down. I guess we'll find out. And gee, why am I hearing a sound that's suspiciously like dun? Number 10. We'll start this off with Damn Sharks from 2016, which doesn't waste any time at all and immediately gives us a bunch of sharks caught up in a torrential downpour that pushes them into a small river and start chomping away. It premiered on the Syfy Channel in July of 2016 as part of their Sharknado week and was actually produced by Cinetel Films and not Asylum for once. A group goes on a corporate wilderness retreat with a barely recognizable Jason London as the jerk CEO. And why is this called Damn Sharks? Well, okay, let me tell you. It's because the sharks are using the bodies of their victims to build a dam. Yes, that is what they are doing. I suppose at some point they will explain why. The sharks are jumpers, and the local law enforcement teams up with a local outdoorsman to stop the threat.
How do you know all this?
Sharknado week.
You know, I was actually going to say this movie wasn't that bad until this point, but you just lost me. These guys go ziplining. Well, then it's a good thing that you went ziplining over a body of water with no damn safety harness, ya dingus. These are apparently bull sharks, and they can either do super jumps out of the water to get people in little boats, or not at all, depending upon who the character is. When they blow up their dam, they just start making another one, and again, as always with shark movies, just stay out of the water. When they save these guys, the cop makes a point to tell them that they're not safe yet, but I mean, they're on land.
Smile, you son of a bitch!
Hey, now I feel justified putting this in the Jaws ripoff territory and having Jaws ripoffs in the title of this video. Sure. And this one's decent. It actually puts a bit of time and effort into its characters. I mean, not a lot, because keep in mind I did say a bit. It's silly enough, but it does actually kind of take itself seriously, like it's not a parody or anything, but yeah, people just do not get the hell away from the water. Like, you will be screaming at your TV by the end of this to just tell people to, you know, get on land. And, you know, they never do explain why the sharks are making a dam. They just do. Number 9. Next up, we have Sand Sharks from 2012, which starts off with this big fin cutting through some big old sand dunes near the beach. And yep, this sand is solid enough to ride a motorcycle on, and yet soft enough for this guy to burrow through. We meet sleazy Jimmy Green, and somehow I think he can't lose. And here's an interesting thing. The mayor here is played by an actor named Edgar Allan Poe IV. He's been in a bunch of movies, and sometimes is credited as Edgar Allan Poe III, or just Allan Poe, and has actually played Edgar Allan Poe in several things. But clearly he's not a direct descendant, considering the actual Poe didn't have any kids, but I guess he is related somehow? Brooke Hogan is in this, since it's like in the 10-minute period in which she was relevant, and there's going to be a big party on the beach, so what are the odds that they're going to refuse to cancel the party even after reports of shark attack? They actually see the attacks, so they intend to close the beaches, and then this scene is basically an exact duplication of the Jaws bit, even down to them dropping a full closure down to 24 hours, to being interrupted by someone out to kill the shark. We find out that this shark is a throwback to some sort of dino shark that's evolved, and yeah, they think they caught the shark. Like, this is just Jaws plus the sand element. I mean, we even have the grizzled sheriff, the young, strong-headed scientist, and the old shark hunter. Plus, we have a shady mayor. They kill a baby one, but figure that there's a bigger one, but don't know for sure, so of course, they have the party, which is at Point Doom in Malibu, and those rocks behind them are where they usually put the big CGI Tony Stark house. Of course, the big guy starts the attack, and of course they ignore it, and also, of course, there's more than one shark out there, and it's fine. It's about as harmless as these things come. It's pretty standard, with nothing very surprising, and honestly, it's pretty easy to see why Brooke Hogan didn't get that many more acting roles after this, and sadly, this movie shows how inventive that something like Tremors is to take advantage of the idea of something coming through the ground and making it a constant fear. I mean, like, this is a scene later in the movie, and people are just standing around on the sand with no concern about the sharks or anything. It's fine.
Eat this, you son of a bitch!
No, I take it back. It's awful. Number 8. Alright, how about 2014's Avalanche Sharks, which coincidentally was originally intended to be a sequel to Sand Sharks, with Hogan returning, but after she dropped out, her role was recast and made a new character, and it became its own thing. The opening lets us know that these aren't just regular sharks, since they're glowing, and this guy talks about a planet of intelligent sharks, but the movie cuts out on him. It's just like, you don't want to hear all this.
Many millennia ago, a planet of intelligent sharks struggled to save their race. Their planet was dying.
How about some skiing instead? We're set up on Mammoth at a ski lodge, and it's spring break week, so everyone is partying, of course, and this sheriff and his marine biologist girlfriend, and I'm assuming that these were originally the roles for Hogan's character and the sheriff guy from Sand Sharks. It's mentioned that they've been together for like 6 months, so I guess from the ending of that movie, and they make a big deal of him just having moved there from the city. It's New York, so possibly it was changed from him heading there from the LA of Sand Sharks. And then Eric Scott Woods, who played the sheriff in Sand Sharks, is actually here too, but in a new role. So here's my guess. I think he was cast in this movie, but then when Brooke couldn't do it, they altered the script, but then just had Woods play a new character instead to avoid confusion while keeping him in the movie. I mean, the 3D model of the shark even looks like the same one. And when Great Value Eric Bana's girlfriend gets chomped in half, there's something weird happening under the snow. I mean, it's like there's something under there, almost like the rest of her body is buried under there. Is there a mayor? Of course. Will he close the area? Of course not. Of course, he also seems confused if he's the mayor or not.
Mayor, if this is New York.
That guy from the beginning finally gets to tell the shark's backstory, and there's some sort of alien shark. And this movie's so low-key, like watch this. This guy is talking to this girl. She sees a giant shark jump out of the snow and eat someone, and just stands there and lets out one scream. But then just continues to stand there. The cop guy just nonchalantly says that she has to get out of there and then just drives off at a regular speed while she's still just calmly standing there. And everything about this movie just lacks energy, I guess. Just feels by the numbers. There's a few attempts at comedy that mostly don't work. And I guess this does feel like Sand Sharks with its overall kind of mediocrity, but it just feels stale, and that a movie about alien snow sharks sounds like it would be pretty wild, and it's just not, like, at all. Number 7. Okay, let's see what other words we can just put in front of the word shark, and how about zombie with 2015's Zombie Shark, which was apparently also called Shark Island, but come on, who wants that over Zombie Shark? This was directed by Misty Talley, who also directed Santa Jaws, so my bar is now set high. And there's an experimental science lab that has a loose test subject. And what? Jason London again? Is he just trying to corner the market on sci-fi shark movies? I mean, Leave some for Jeremy London, okay? A group of 4 young folk head off to an island to party, and Lester here tells them it is nicknamed Shark Island, and a dead one washes up on shore. But what's the title of this movie again? Also, as an editor, I want to complain about this because this makes no sense. What's going on here? Everyone gets back onto land, so danger's over, right? I mean, they know there's a killer shark, so no one is going to go back into the ocean, right? Nope, people are still just floating around in tubes and stuff. The main zombie shark is making more, and oh, the shark's name is Bruce, because we need Jaws references in all of these. And everyone still just hangs around right at the water, and then we get this finely edited death scene. Apparently, Tally herself edited this movie, so I guess I have her to blame, and the lab was doing tests to reanimate dead tissue, but even people who are bit by Bruce come back as zombies, although considering that everyone we saw got bit was basically chomped in half, I mean, are they really that scary? This bunch of dudes decides to fight back with weapons, so they run into the water to fight the sharks. Just stay on the land. There is no problem if you just stay on land. This one's not as entertaining as I would have hoped. I mean, it's fine and all, but it just gets painfully frustrating because this whole movie is a massive crisis that could be so easily avoided, but because it's a movie, no one does. So you'll spend about 80% of the time not really focusing on what's going on because you're just thinking, just go to that bar, plop your asses down, and relax until help arrives. Number 6. Well, this might be the one that I truly regret, but it's Jersey Shore Shark Attack from 2012, which, oh boy, does that sound exciting. I mean, it's breaking our whole theme of noun and then shark, but how can I not include this? This one is directed by the guy that made that Chupacabra movie on the cruise ship that I thought was pretty fun, so I guess that's a good enough sign. And there's a bunch of people that I think are supposed to be versions of the characters from MTV's Jersey Shore, like this guy called The Complication, who I guess is a clone of someone called This Situation or something. And instead of Snooki, which is actually a name that I do recognize, there's someone called Nookie. And yeah, I'm not that familiar with the show enough to get the joke of who they're copies of, but maybe you guys know, I don't know. Paulie Walnuts is here, and there's a whole scene where they blast a random woman with a super soaker, and her preppy friends stick up for her while the douches laugh, and somehow the movie is trying to make the rich kids the bad guys? A shark starts attacking off the coast, and Walter Peck is here, and there's tons of humor.
Like that stingray that killed the British guy? You know, the one that hunted the crocodiles?
But there is some actual humor.
What if they don't cremate him? What if they want to bury him regular like they don't get him in a coffin? Bro, you can't put that in a coffin. It's gonna look ridiculous.
Later on, they steal the rich kid's boat and then blow it up. And again, they're trying to convince you that the rich guys are the villains, and Joey Fatone makes a cameo, and I guess the Jaws reference is that they tell the stories of the real-life 1916 shark attacks that plagued the actual Jersey area the Jaws was based on. And then Paul Sorvino shows up as the mayor to tell me if you've heard this one before. They think they've caught the shark that was causing the problems, so they decide not to close down the beaches until, of course, a bunch of sharks cause chaos that the shore crew must fend off. This is mildly amusing. I mean, it's really just a same old, except instead of a bunch of generic leads, you've got a bunch of douche people instead. And I guess depending upon how much that sentence amuses you will gauge your interest in this movie.
Smile, you stupid fish.
It's like these movies just can't help themselves. Number 5. Next one up to the plate is 2016's Planet of the Sharks from the director of Sand Sharks. And this is set on Waterworld, or I guess not really, but yeah, really, because this is in a future where the glaciers have melted and Earth's land masses have flooded. So, you know, our future, and Junk City here is besieged by sharks, and I love that it's supposed to be a flooded Earth, but breaks of the waves pretty much indicate that they're really close to shore here. A lone survivor gets rescued and taken to another floating city called Salvation, and they figure out that there's an alpha shark that's mutated and leading the group on the hunt. But what the hell kind of accent is this?
I find it hard to believe an entire flotilla could be taken down by sharks.
They try fighting off the sharks, but fare pretty poorly, although I'm not sure what's causing these explosions. And I guess the sharks are using electromagnetic signals to communicate with each other while seeking prey. And there's a character here named Caroline Munro, who, sadly, is not played by Caroline Munro, which is points against this movie in my eyes. And yeah, damn, someone really just said Waterworld and Mad Max, but with sharks. You could have even just slapped the Waterworld 2 onto this and no one would really be the wiser. Oh, but it does feature that classic shark can suddenly jump up into the sky to bring down a freaking plane thing that only happens in these goofy movies. Because yep, these sharks are smart enough to know that there's a plane flying overhead and are capable enough to jump up and eat it. But this girl parasurfing or whatever, they can't do anything about that. And man, you know, when I talk about bad movies, this is what I'm talking about. Dull and lifeless and takes itself way too seriously. I mean, I guess I'll give it a bit of credit for attempting to do something like The Road Warrior and presenting itself as basically one long action scene. But yeah, it doesn't work. But hey, no Jaws lines, so I guess there's that. But you know what? I'm actually counting that as a point against it in this case. Why not? Number 4. Since we've already done avalanche sharks, it feels like cheating to also include ice sharks from 2016, but why not? The last 3 movies were just too full of having sharks in their native environment, and I really want to see sharks somewhere weird, like the ice. So, ice sharks. And oh boy, the quality of the effects is going to be stellar, judging from the first attack. A science team monitoring the glaciers in the Arctic Circle discovers some anomalies in temperatures there, and while investigating some missing hunters, they get attacked, and there's a bunch of sharks that I guess can just break through the ice wherever. It's mentioned that these sharks specifically smell like pee, like that's a plot point of this movie, and I guess they can cut through the ice, and I believe the implication here is that they use their fins to cut through, so they seem to be saying that the ice is like the length of a shark fin thin, which I'm not sure that they would build a facility on. I would think that ice would need to be thicker to support that. This is a whole building with steel beams on the side, and they're saying it's just sitting atop ice thin enough for a shark fin to cut through. Okay. Like the building ends up on a tiny piece of ice, but when they show it, the ice is like super thick. Look at this building and think about the scale. That ice that we can see is over 10 feet thick. How are these sharks just slicing that open? It's then a race against time as the facility starts to sink into the water, and it kind of becomes deep blue sea for a while, or maybe 47 meters down or whatever. This one might be one of the most tedious ones on here, since it seems to really want to be taken seriously on one hand, but then have sharks cutting through ice with their fins on the other. Too much of it is just dealing with the survival of being stuck underwater with characters that are all paper thin, and this is pretty good if you're having a hard time falling asleep. Number 3. Moving on now to 2017's Mississippi River Sharks, which was also directed by Misty Talley, which this is a weird thing. On the TV is a deleted scene from the original Jaws, where the fisherman gets dragged through the water. Sharks just come flying up on the water and attack, and of course there's this big fish rodeo that this guy refuses to cancel. And oh my god, Jason London is in this one too. He's like the shark movie king, I guess, and he's playing Jason London, like himself, and they call him an action hero, which is generous. Somewhere, Jeremy London is weeping. Of course, the sharks start attacking and they catch one, leading to a special effect that will astound you with its realness. Much like Zombie Shark and Santa Jaws as well, this movie can simply be over if the main characters just said, "There's sharks in the water, so let's just get far away from that and call in the authorities to take care of the issue," but they don't, and instead have to take it upon themselves to solve this problem. And the only way to solve the problem seems to be getting onto tiny boats and hanging out over the river. This one is fairly entertaining for the first part, but then just gets stuck doing the same old, and Jason London is actually pretty great in this, portraying a fun, jerky version of himself, and the movie just kind of stalls when his character is seemingly killed. Oh, and hey, Jeremy London makes a cameo here, so good for the London boys. Number 2. Let's get back to our whole word and then shark theme with 2017's Toxic Shark, which is directed by Cole Sharp. And here's an anomaly. This is literally his only credit on IMDb. Nothing before this, nothing after. So like, how do you just end up beginning your career just directing a sci-fi movie? How does that happen? And can that happen to me? I'll direct one of these things. My email is like right there. It starts with an unintentionally hilarious moment, and then there's a singles retreat on an island, and there's of course a shark here, and this one has this acidic toxic goo it shoots out. The main plot is that there's a couple here who recently broke up and yet accidentally end up at the retreat together, and the big guy starts attacking, and this guy gets tangled in a tug of war rope. Like, how is that possible? How does one get tangled in a single piece of rope that's going in a straight line? The shark's toxic blast turns people into zombies, sort of, so it's like a remake of Zombie Shark or something, and okay, they know the shark is out there, but they're on an island resort with tons of supplies, and all the people have to do is stay put and stay away from the water, right? Nope, right in. And then there's this zombie threat on the island, but for the most part, this just follows the formula and doesn't really give much different, and although it's never really straight up boring, it does feel a little tedious. Number 1. Our final movie here is one that I know I love, and it's Ghost Shark from 2013. This one is directed by Griff First, who apparently is really into Noun Shark since he did this, Nightmare Shark, Trailer Park Shark, and Swamp Shark. This kicks off with some sport fishers killing a shark.
Smile, you son of a bitch!
Oh, it's been a while. Which then swims into a nearby cave where some unique ancient symbols on the wall light up. Afterwards, the fishermen are killed off by some kind of ghost shark. It's right there in the title. Bull is here working at the nearby lighthouse, and Sean C. Phillips is here at his most absolute unit. And can we talk about what a wild career that this guy has had? Started as a YouTube guy and has since gone on to show up in over 200 movies, mostly super low budget stuff where he basically just gives info on monsters from his house, which sounds like a pretty sweet gig. So hey, if you were thinking of maybe trying a different YouTube guy for that, again, email's right there. Then when the shark attacks, the local mayor, stop me if you've heard this one before, agrees to close the beaches for 24 hours, only to help their tourist season. So, in an uncharacteristic move for one of these movies, everyone decides to stay away from the beach and have a pool party, and hey, remember when I called Phillips a unit? Watch this. He's in the water, and this kid jumps directly onto his back, like straight on, and barely budges him. But then, and here's where the title of this movie is important, the ghost shark appears in the pool, and then at a car wash where a kid who looks like 12 years old is driving a car, and then some pipes and a slip and slide because the ghost shark can appear anywhere that there's water. The movie has lots of fun with this concept, having it show up in bathtubs, sprinklers, and even from inside a guy who just had a drink. Yeah, I know it's not perfect, it lags in some spots, but it's just good silly fun, and apparently has no issues killing kids, because like 6 or 7 child characters get eaten in this one. In terms of, well, movies, it's nothing to write home about, but in terms of sci-fi shark movies, it's a spirited good time. I should point out that there's a sequel called Ghost Shark 2: Urban Jaws that's not as good as this one, and oddly wasn't a sequel or knockoff, but a completely separate film that was filmed at the same time, or possibly earlier than Ghost Shark, and was unrelated, but was then bought and released as a sequel. It's far more serious in tone and is a pretty strange little flick that weirdly doesn't really feature a shark. It's sorta, I guess. It is worth watching though because it's pretty entertaining and has an odd, surreal tone to it that I do like, just not as much as I like Ghost Shark. So there you have it, 10 movies with weird shark stuff happening in it. Yeah, most of these don't just have straightforward sharks. From the Syfy Channel, and yeah, most of these were not good. Actually, believe it or not, I more so enjoyed the really out there shark ripoffs from last year, like Sharks of the Corn and like the backyard movie ones. Those ones are actually a little bit more entertaining than these to me. But these were still pretty fun. I mean, I had some fun watching these. There's nothing in here that was too terrible. The biggest complaint about several of them is that they were just boring. But I don't know. If you've seen any of these, let me know down in the comments. If you know other insane, great sci-fi shark movies that you want me to watch, put those down below as well too. I could do more shark videos. I could do like 10 more of these. There's enough content out there with sharks, but tell me which ones you want to see right down there. Also, please like the video if you've enjoyed it. If you're enjoying the channel in general, please hit that subscribe button. Maybe share the video out to your friends. That'd be nice. And then if you think about it, go to my Patreon page at patreon.com/movietimelines. You can help support this channel like these guys do because they are my patrons and they are cool cats. Very cool, I guess cool sharks. They're cool sharks. That doesn't work. But anyway, I'll see you very shortly for another great video. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye-bye.